advocate. So I film basically on mind care tips and life tips. So recently I started a series based on men's mental health, and I decided to make it all about me. So today I'm joined by these wonderful people. They'll introduce themselves.
Mzilangi,
Steven Sengindumba.
Kanyo Chileka.
To have you here, guys. Thank you for joining me. What do you understand by mental health?
Having a state of mind that has a stable way of how you run. If you're mentally healthy, you are happy for your life. You're sad at the right time.
An equilibrium of a state of mind, in the sense that you are content in each and every aspect of your life, so to say, because it encompasses a lot of things. It encompasses your family relation, your relation to your friends. If you are a religious guy, obviously it also encompasses your relationship with your God as well.
Today we have two segments. Let's start with how social norms have affected your upbringing. So norms like guys are guys. Guys are not supposed to cry. You're a man. Just you can hold it. You're strong. You're expected to be strong. You're not expected to be weak. And if you ask for help, you are basically being weak. So how have these things affected you people and your mental health?
It's quite a challenge, especially the cultural setup of our country, or just even Africa, or just the entire world at large. We've got this belief that men are supposed to really be good at bottling up maybe their emotions. They're not supposed to express their emotions. In many cases, when you express your emotions to a certain extent, you are likened to being a girl, being female. It's like the very thought of you expressing how you feel at a certain point is linked to weakness. You are considered to be someone who is weak in that area. You are considered to be someone who's not stable. So usually from that understanding and that kind of cultural education which has been embedded in our minds, we have grown up having a mentality of not always trying to express ourselves. It's like whenever we are going through a certain problem, we're pretty much good at just bottling it in, keeping it in, making sure nobody knows about it. You have a certain problem which was created by you. In many cases, answers will have to come from external factors. It has to come from other individuals. Perhaps there are certain individuals who have walked in the same shoes that you're walking on, and they will be able to give you a proper counsel, able to give you some knowledgeable advice in how you can tackle certain problems here and there. But because we've been taught not to share, that's the very definition of being a man in our culture. If you keep things to yourself, you're considered to be someone who's strong, If you're beaten, even when you are growing up, you hate yourself, you fall, and it's really, really is painful as a young boy. Yeah. They'll look at you and they'll tell you, this guy is strong, so you see, he won't even cry.
Yeah.
So it's like even just from a very tender age, we're just taught just to hold it in, even though it is painful. And I like the definition which he gave about mental. One of the aspects of the definition which he gave about mental health is that you are sad when you need to be sad. You are happy when you need to be happy. Even just from your biological makeup that you need to cry, because we are designed or made in a certain way that it doesn't matter whether you're male or female, we all have tears. We all need to cry at some point. Why? Because in the process of you crying, you're relieving some stress, relieving some pressure, So it really does not help. It really has not helped most of the men, most of the guys, in terms of the cultural education which has really been taught to us, saying we're supposed to behave in such a manner. It has not helped us in any way.
To give an example of this cultural education that we receive, my mom, she's a great woman, but all the times that I was ever beaten as a young boy or bullied or anything happened out there, I wasn't allowed to cry. Actually, when I go home and complain, because like I would see other mothers, like they would go and follow, they would help that child, like I'm no man and things like that. But for my mom, she'd always ask, for you to be beaten, it means you're weak. You have to be strong. So you get, like, because of that, I started having this perception that
survival of the people.
I needed to survive. I didn't need to go home and cry that I've been beaten. I didn't need to go to my friend and say, boy, I've been heartbroken. I'm there crying. Like they'll find me weak, you know. So is this? I was just giving an example about that. Like this cultural education that we've been getting from the time we were young has just got a strong impact on why we're expected to be, guys.
The severity of the cultural education and how wrong it is in terms of looking at the statistics, the kind of effect it has had on most men. You'll be surprised. In fact, I don't expect people to be surprised, but you'll be surprised anyway to find that most of the people who actually commit suicide or who attempt suicide, if you look at the statistics, quite alarming. It is men. You find that the ratio is almost, I don't know, 1 to 5 or 1 to 8, somewhere there, if I'm not mistaken. But the point is, men much more prone to commit suicide as compared to women. And you find that though it cannot be the primary reason as to why they commit suicide, but with women, you find that it is easier for them to share their emotions. They cry when they need to. And the society has just come to understand women, saying that's the way they are. And you find that when they express themselves by virtue of crying or being emotional, it helps them, it relieves them. Whenever you cry, in many cases, you actually tend to feel way much better than before. But you see, for men, it's a different setup. You're told not to cry, you're told not to do this, it's not manly. If you do this, it is weakness. And you see, being a man who's got a certain ego, being a man, you don't want someone to call you weak. So you find that even while it is hurting, you want to go on. Even while you cannot, literally your body tells you cannot do this due to a certain condition, perhaps because of a certain pain, you would want to strike. And you find that in you going beyond your limitation, you're actually doing more injury to yourself until it reaches a point where you just can't take it anymore. And then other people resort to certain things as suicide, and though all this has got one of the reasons, not the primary, but one of the reasons is the cultural education which we have received from our parents and our society and community at large.
Like what my brother here Stephen said, he mentioned something about people. Naturally, a man never wants to be seen as weak at any point. Like just, it's almost instinctive. They never want to be viewed as one who is weak. That's why you would see how even animals, they'll be like the alpha male. Who's the alpha male? If there's going to be 2 males and then there's 1 female, they'll start fighting over that territory. So already there's that aspect of that ego that they have, like, as even as human beings say, oh, no, I wouldn't want to be seen to be weak. Now that's just like our nature. Now, when it comes to these cultural norms about, no, you're a man, I was told once by my dad, he said, you should never cry about it. And one of the reasons he gave was basically because it would show the younger ones that you're weak. Because let's say he said in an event of where he dies, people have to have at least someone who they can look up to and say, oh, okay, no, at least there's someone who seemingly has a solution. You get? So it's like you are the pillar of the family. You are like the man who's there.
Like, it's not just about performing there, it's also about sensitizing about that. Even when you're addicted to something, the last thing you want to do is to go and join people who are also addicted.
It's like people are very miserable now. We just go and
Exactly.
let's say at some point I really love to listen to him, but you find that it's because there is something that is relatable, but then there's no solution.
Yeah.
You can't say no because I Arepta Munifi and I'm also going through this, then I'm just going to, So it has to at least lead to something that can got a solution.
Like, I am actually part of a mental health campaign. Like, basically for me, I'd say that ever since I started, like, being part of this campaign, I actually didn't realize that I had stuff like you people, like I had stuff like bottled up. But then with time, like, because we get to have like activities from time to time, like we're group therapy and all, it helps. Like, there are times when we just have activities, but those activities are not like basically there to like make you feel bad about yourself, because I personally feel like those are there to help that I'm not fine, because the first step to healing is you realizing that you're not okay. Because if you're not going to realize that you're not okay, there's no way you're going to be healed. It's the same thing when you have like a headache. if you're not going to tell anybody that you've got a headache, definitely the doctor is not going to give you Panadol to get better, because you go and sit there, he'll just look at you. How is he supposed to guess that you're not fine? You have to admit that I'm not fine, then they'll help you out.
And out of experience, I believe there's always that feeling that you be like, okay, I'm not alone, and you always trust. Now, I'm feeling with this. You know, that kind of thing. But it doesn't mean you've passed, or it doesn't mean it's a good thing, you know. But there's always that feeling that I'm not alone.
For example, I went on PT last year, right? But then the fact that my closest friend was on first day, and my other close friend, and 2 other ones. I was like, oh, okay, so
The burden feels less.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know,
'cause-
when it's not even less, but it feels
we could
less.
take ourselves by the loans, cry about it, you know, and now oh, okay, so I'm not alone.
Mostly when you're in a part, like when you're in a zone where like you feel like, no, that person is doing better than you're doing, that's when it gets all dangerous. Yeah.
And you see, we just call that a sense of belonging. You see, what we relate more to people who relate to us. We want to establish a common relationship with common attributes. You see, that's why even when you're explaining a problem to someone, it's easier for you to open up to someone whom you feel has gone through or walked in the same shoes that you're walking on. It's easier for you to share your problem with someone who's experienced what you have experienced. So you find that having things like support groups and all, it's not as if it is just a forum of which you can just share your problem without coming up with a solution. Sometimes, you know, the solution really is just in you sharing, in you just knowing that you're not alone. So these support groups and forums, they really establish a certain kind of relationship that just eases the flow and the tension of emotions that you have bottled up from inside.
Yeah, and then they're actually helpful. For me, when I started this whole journey of mental health, like me being an advocate, at first I was doing I thought I was doing it to help out people, but then in the process, it turned out that I was actually helping myself out, like actually get healed from the stuff that I had buried up. Somebody told me saying healing is messy. Like you think as though you've healed from it, but actually you've just buried it. But then these support groups actually help you heal, because from there you get to tell your story more often, and then the more you tell your story, the better you get, because the first time it will be helpful, but then the second time, no, it won't be. But then as you go, it gets easier.